Krista, hi, how you doing? Okay, so I got your work up here. So glad you enjoyed the little video for the Vancouver 2010. I just love that package. That graphics package just blew me away. I remember the first time I saw it, my mouth was wide open. I was like, oh my God, that is one of the most incredible and beautiful things I've ever seen. So you can imagine when I found the little video, I was like a little kid with a bag of candy. I was like, this is great. So I watch that video probably once a month, and I have been since 2010, and I just love it. I just think it's a fantastic way to really kind of show students how a graphics package like this is assembled with the graphics team, and where they kind of, they kind of just found their way into this thing by extensive research, both visual, written, and other. And I think it's a really good example of how design works. We don't just jump into this design. It's like, oh, I got this vision in my head, and next thing I know, I have this completed design. That's just not how it works. And I think it's really important for this class through Sign and Symbol to understand that. Let's jump over to your work. Now, one of the things I would mention is I think it's fantastic that you're really working forward to your actual presentation. And I think that's fantastic. And I think there was another, let me see, what was the other? This is just a double page. I think I see what's going on here. So at any rate, so the one thing I would recommend at this point is that I don't think you have enough sketching going on here. I just don't. I think that you've got your 6 sketches, but remember in my introduction to the week, I said, that just doesn't make sense. It says 6 sketches of as many ideas as you possibly can. So I attributed that to being a typograph or a spelling error or a typographic error, meaning that it should say 6 pages of sketches. And I really think that in this sketching stage, I think it's a really great idea to sketch as much as you possibly can. 2 reasons. Number one, it's just really a generally proven fact that a computer can't keep up with your mind. It just can't. I mean, when you have paper and pencil in front of you and you start sketching out ideas, that's where the ideas start to come. That's where they start to percolate. And when you go on the computer and start working like that, that's never works. Never works. The ideas aren't as well developed. They're just not. And the reason being is that you start working with form on the computer and your mind shuts down. You start concentrating on other things than really developing these symbolic approaches and these encoded meaning into these symbols that you're using to represent your intended message. So, and I think that there's in a couple ways here, I think you've done that. I think this is really, really interesting. And this is what I'm talking about. This is really interesting as well. A couple of the other, now you don't have to go back and give more sketches. I mean, unless you want to. I mean, I would like to see a lot more sketches. If you jump up to Brian's, take a look at Brian's representations here and just take a look at his spreads and his pages. And he's just done many, 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 many sketches, as has David in his second presentation. Janelle's done a bunch of different kinds of sketches. And go through and take a look through those and take a look at my video critiques in response to those. I think you'll get a good general idea of where this project should be headed. So. Okay, so let's take a look at the sketches. And right now I'm interested in sketches. Presentation is great, but I'm really more interested in the sketches than anything. And of the sketches, I think the 2 I really want to talk about are this and this. And the reason I don't want to talk about the others is because I think they're too pictorial. This is just too spread out. It's too fragmented. There's too much going on. It's everywhere. You see what I'm saying? This is too pictorial as well. You got the sunshine and the Olympic rings, the upside down Olympic rings, which that probably would not be allowed. The International Olympic Committee does have a branding set of guidelines for the Olympic rings, how they're allowed to be used and how they're not allowed to be used. As far as I can see, the only real representation of the Olympic rings is in color or in black on white. So that's food for thought there. Plus, there's just too much going on here. Take a look at the visual stops. You've got the mountains, 1. You've got the snow caps, 2. You've got the sunshine, 3. You got the Olympic rings, 4. You got the upside down inverted Olympic rings, 5. You got the building, 6. You got Anchorage, 7. You've got 2020, 12. You've got 8. You've got 8 or 9 visual stops here. That's just too many. Excuse me. Excuse me. That's just too many. The mind can't keep up with that. You want this thing to be, take a look at some of the other examples of Olympic, successful Olympic, um, you've got one of my, well, look at London 2012. You've got this depiction of the Olympic torch. You've got London. You've got three visual stops. Look at Calgary 90 or 88. You got this representation of the snow, and then you've got the rings. You got 88. That's it. So in time and time again, we just see Tokyo 2020. Okay, you've got the visual representation. You got the rings, and you've got the type. That's it. Tokyo 64. This one won a bunch of awards, by the way. You've got the rising sun with the gradient. You've got the gold colored Olympic rings, Tokyo 64. That's it. So, in things like this, it's just, you don't want a whole lot going on because you really want to keep it simple. You want to keep it memorable, and you want the viewer to really be able to understand what you're saying without having to look around and get lost in the logo. Okay, so for that reason, I would say that something like that is just too pictorial. Typographic is an interesting approach. Well, I shouldn't say it's an interesting approach. It's a viable approach. I don't know if it's the most interesting approach. This is interesting, but these two I think are really super interesting. I think this is just fantastic because if you can represent a totem pole kind of without actually, if you can put your own flair on that, your own touch. In other words, so you're not just looking at a totem pole and depicting it. If you can add your own touch to that, I think it would be really super interesting. So think about that. This, I think, is so interesting because this is what I'm looking for. Something like this, where you've got this encoded meaning, okay? This kind of swirl right here represents Northern Lights. And then the whole thing almost represents a sports figure. I think this is forced right here with the ski down here. Because then it's starting to look too much like a pictogram. But, sans the ski, you just have that swoosh, you got the circle, and then you got the Olympics. And that's interesting because it's going to resemble a sports figure. However, it also, as you said, resembles Northern Lights. So that's got a ton of potential. Good job researching pictograms. Again, of course, Vancouver 2010 pictograms, again, are among the best I've ever seen. I mean, as I said before, I think that the Vancouver package is the best graphics package of any Olympic program ever. So really great job developing and looking at your working with your exploring, is the word I'm looking for, exploring your pictograms. Good job adding Paralympic things as well, too. That's really good stuff here. Good stuff. Love it. Okay. Other ideas. And then you have an inspiration. And again, I think it's really fantastic that you've gone in and already started your presentation. That's smart. And an end note, like I said, you've got some good representation here. Try not to be too pictorial. Would have loved to seen a lot more sketches. You can still add more sketches if you want. I think that the more you sketch, the more successful this project is going to be. I mean, that's just a fact of design. Okay, Chris, a great job. Any questions, comments, concerns, or if I can clarify anything at all, please let me know. Thanks.